Okay, welcome back to Civ Fanatics Ultimate Strategy Guide for Sid Meier's Civilization. It's been a while. Took a bit of a sabbatical from making Civ videos. Why? Well, honestly, because Rise and Fall kicked my ass. I'm just putting it bluntly, saying it the way it happened. It's kind of a shame really because I love the updates. All of them. From the new civilization they put into the game to the addition of the governors, all of it. It just took me a while to come up with a strategy that would propel me from dominating at the prince level, which I did fairly quickly, to being able to adequately and consistently pull off victories at higher levels. That's where I struggled. I was stopped dead at Emperor. And I kind of found that embarrassing, at least at the time. I was still able to smash the game at king level, but honestly, every time I tried to advance to the emperor level, I was demolished by the AI. Every single time. But I finally figured out a strategy that worked. And it worked better than I expected to. With the new strategy in place, I was able to virtually pass Emperor level. I played it a couple times at Emperor level, and I went pretty much right to Immortal. And it only took me a couple of games to get from Immortal to where I was starting to feel brave enough and randy enough to take a shot at playing on Deity, which is something that I never accomplished on Civ 5. As much as I played Civ 5 a lot, but I only owned it maybe a year, probably less than that, before Civ 6 came out. So, I was on, I rose up to Immortal level in Civ 5, and, by then Civ 6 was coming out. So, ultimately, this is going to be a two-part series. In this first video, all I'm going to do is show you what my process was, and maybe you can take things from it that you can use for yourself if you're struggling at achieving higher levels in the game. So basically all I did to progress through the game was I go in and first of all, there's two basic ways or two basic strategies, as far as I can tell, to winning the game. Now there's different victory types, but there's two main strategies. You can go to war early or you can go to war late, right? So if you're the type of player that wants to play an early war scenario, then obviously you're going to pick a civilization like maybe Kupe or Suleiman that is more geared for early war, right? And if you are more of a late war, like I am, I think Pachacudi is a really good civ to play, and that, for right now, that's the civilization that I'm kind of using to figure things out. And then once I feel like the game has become too easy playing the same civ, then I'll start moving on to other ones. All right, so I'm actually to the point where I want to start trying to play at the Deity level. And when you're setting up the game, if you pick online, it's geared more towards the player than it is the AI. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're struggling with one level at the standard level, maybe jump up to the online level and play at that. As far as the continents go, I usually play either continents, island sea, or Pangea, depending on my mood. If I want to play more war, you know, if I want to have more wars more often, then I'll pick Pangea. And if I want to have wars less often, and I also enjoy like ocean, you know, wars in the water. So sometimes I'll play on island plates just because, you know, I feel like playing a game that's, you know, more geared towards playing on ships. But in this case, I think I'll pick continents. And to me, the advantage to playing on continents is that you can have trade routes that go overseas. And whenever your traders, you know, land at their destination on a boat, they get, you know, more gold. Now with this strategy, I recommend playing on either standard or large. And for this scenario, I'm going to pick large. I'm going to crank this up to disaster level 3. And okay, now where the strategy really starts to come into play is with the number of players that are in. Now, if you're comfortable with a certain difficulty level, then you can just leave it the way it is. It's no problem if you're already comfortable. But if you're going up to a level that you're not comfortable with playing, you can do two things. You can decrease the number of AIs, and if you're a player that favors late wars over early wars, you want to decrease the number of AIs. And that'll give you more room for expansion, and the farther away the AIs are from your territory, the least likely they are to attack you. So by decreasing the number of AIs, you have a greater chance of avoiding early war scenarios. In contrast, if you're a player that wants to play an early war scenario, then you want to add AIs. And for a large map, I would recommend adding 2, maybe 3 AIs to the game. And by doing that, what you end up doing is you limit the area that the AIs have to expand, and this will make it more difficult for them to run away with science and or culture, depending on what victory type the AI is going for. So if you want to play an early war scenario, you add a couple, 2 to 3 AIs, and if you want to play a late war scenario, then you just, you know, subtract from the number of AIs. And for a large map, I recommend doing 2 to 3. I think this way I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I've subtracted 2 AIs. The other thing that you can manipulate is the number of city-states. I usually don't play with that too much. Again, if you add city-states, the AIs will start, you know, taking, you know, stealing their, you know, conquering the city-states. The other thing is, if you're going up in a level, if you start off with abundant, then you're more likely to have the resources you need when it does come to building military units. And you can change your start position to legendary, which gives you a better chance of having everything you need to get your capital up to par. And the last thing is changing it, not the temperature, but the rainfall to wet. If you change the rainfall to wet, then it'll be easier for you to get your population of each city to, you know, higher levels. You know, if you want to reach pop 10 or pop 15 or whatever, getting them to higher levels. If you put the rainfall to wet, there's, you know, more farm tiles to feed your city, feed your population. So what I usually do is, you know, if I'm playing on a level that I'm comfortable with, I usually leave it more towards the default. I don't change much. And when I feel like I have that level mastered, then I'll go up to another level. You know, if I'm on Emperor and I want to go to Immortal, then I'll start doing these things that I suggested. I'll subtract a couple of AIs, you know, start messing with the resources and the start position, the rainfall, so that, you know, I have a better chance of being able to grow my civilization. And then I work back towards standard, and when I get, you know, when everything is standard, then I know I'm ready to go up to another level. And like I said, you know, it's only been about 15 or 20 games since I've figured this out, and I've progressed from playing on King comfortably but getting demolished on Emperor to the point to where I'm kicking butt on Immortal virtually with, you know, with a standard setup. So now I'm ready to, you know, give it a shot on Deity, but, you know, I kind of nurse things back a little bit so that, you know, I don't actually consider this playing on Deity level. It's just kind of like a buffed Immortal level, so to speak. So with that being said, I'll keep this video relatively short. You can take whatever tips from it, you know, you think suit you, and thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. In the next video, I'm actually going to play with this setup that I'm showing you here, you know, as Pachacuti. You know, I speak English, so automatically I can, you know, I feel like no matter how I say the name, it's automatically right, because, you know, English, because it's English. So with that being said, I'm going to play as Pachacuti, and we'll talk about the actual gameplay strategy that I've been using that is enabled, that's kind of, it's revolutionized my gameplay. And I don't, you know, it's nothing original that I came up with. I kind of took it off of one of Filthy Robot's earliest strategy videos, and you know, it involves using internal trade routes and the value of those, and I mean, it's a powerful strategy that works really well. So with that being said, I'll see you next time, where I'll show you how to implement that strategy and make it work for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.